The last election, the Conservative Party in Northern Ireland got 0.03% of the vote. 0.03%. And today they're setting a budget for the departments and the people of Northern Ireland. They're doing that because the DUP won't go into government. They're doing that because the DUP won't go into government and take the finance department, set a budget for the people of the north of Ireland. And the argument today seems to be from the DUP, sure, we can't fix everything. Even if we do go back into government, we can't fix everything. There's no magic wand. Well, as a harsh critic of the DUP Sinn Féin government over many years, I can tell you couldn't fix everything. Absolutely, Stormont couldn't fix everything. But that's the job. That's the job of a public representative, is to roll your sleeves up, get in there and try. I mean, it's like a Pontius Pilate concert in here today. Nothing to do with us. Hands are being washed all over the place. The reality is, a budget has been set by the Conservative Party, who have absolutely no support in Northern Ireland, because the DUP won't go into government. They could go into government tomorrow morning if they wanted to. And the Minister, a man who I often agree with, made a very clear point about this. There is no connection whatsoever between the negotiations that are going on between the European Commission and the British Government and the formation of a government in Northern Ireland to deal with the problems that we face. And anybody who says otherwise is lying to themselves. There will be a resolution, in my view, to the issues around the protocol. But I'll tell you what, it is absolutely vital that a core part of that resolution respects the fact that we now have a fantastic opportunity, because of the protocol, to trade into two markets unencumbered. An opportunity that nowhere else has. An opportunity that the Secretary of State is in America, I think, right now, selling to American companies. The honourable member's absolutely right. We wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for the actions of the DUP. And where are we? We have people dying in their homes because ambulances aren't coming in time. We have people in trolleys in every hospital in Northern Ireland for over 24 hours. We have an education department that is being cut to ribbons by this budget, and we have people every single day in my constituency emigrating because they can't find work. Will that all be solved by an executive in the morning? No, it won't, but it's our job to try. That's the whole point of representative democracy. That's the whole point of devolution. That was the whole point of the Good Friday Agreement, that people who disagree with each other can come together and thrash out agreements to get things done. It's difficult, it's tough, it's not easy, but it's what we're supposed to do. In my own constituency, and I welcome the member for East Antrim's conversion to levelling up to areas that need it most. I'll extend an invitation right now to him to foil, because my experience of previous executives didn't do an awful lot of levelling up there. The people in the constituency with the highest level of unemployment, the highest claimant count, the highest household overcrowding, 1 in 10 of the most deprived areas in the whole of Northern Ireland, 10 of the most deprived areas in the whole of Northern Ireland, 5 of them are in my constituency. So I would just, maybe there was some work done, maybe there was some money spent outside of the greater Belfast area, but it hasn't had the impact that some might claim. If people think that it's good enough just to say we're going to throw a few quid at the people in Derry, the people who've been left behind after many, many decades, that's going to be good enough or acceptable, well, they're absolutely wrong. In fact, the New Decade New Approach Agreement was referenced earlier, and this government does have responsibility around some of those commitments. I can think of the expansion of McGee. Still no funding for that from the government. The Brandywell Stadium, still no funding from the government for that. Or the Northlands Addiction Centre, we've had promise after promise, the money's still not in a bank account. So, we have, I frankly find it very difficult to watch, and the jumping up from their seats and trying to give excuse after excuse as to why it wouldn't make any difference if we were in government, when we have people literally dying on trolleys right now because they can't get access to the health service, dying on trolleys right now, and we're abdicating our responsibilities. as elected representatives for the people. That's quite astonishing, given the fact that we did have an agreement called the Sunningdale Agreement, where we had people working those institutions, and they were brought down, frankly, by people associated with his own political party and other unionists. I mean, the idea that accusation thrown at the SDLP for not wanting to make institutions work, this is coming from somebody who walked away in the dying hours of a negotiation to bring about the Good Friday Agreement. The Good Friday Agreement had to be brought about because the three strands, the three sets of relationships had to be recognised. We could not have an internal settlement in Northern Ireland without North-South institutions and without institutions that recognise the East-West dimension to our relationships as well. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous to state otherwise. We now have people in the DUP using the Good Friday Agreement as a reason why they can't go back into government. It is absolutely astonishing, it is wrong, and it is an attempt to pull the wool over people's eyes. We all, in all of our communities and constituencies, should recognise that the European Social Fund, for example, has gone £40 million in communities, supporting 1,700 jobs and activity right across every single community. The British Government are proposing to give us half of that back, even though they told us we wouldn't lose a single penny as a result of Brexit. 800 jobs in the community and voluntary sector gone. And we have councils across Northern Ireland right now considering massive rates hikes, which will put more pressure on ratepayers, more pressure on small businesses, and will mean workers in those small businesses, many of whom are already on the breadline, will lose their job. I mean, we also had an opportunity, I think, missed today, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I think the member for Lagan Valley and every other political leader in Northern Ireland will agree with me on this, because we've all signed a letter around this, to implement the organ donation law known as Dahi's Law. This was an opportunity, I think, missed by this government. I would ask them to revisit that. The work that has been done by young Dahi and his whole family and the people around that campaign deserve support from this government. I also, of course, want to put on record my condolences to Alex Easton and his whole family and family circle. An absolutely awful tragedy to happen to anybody, and I can't imagine what that family is going through. We have proposed a change, Madam Deputy Speaker, to the rules around how a Speaker will be elected, which I think could get the Assembly back up and running, get committees meeting at least. It will not see an executive up and running. That's down to a political decision by the DUP. They tell us that the basis of the Assembly is consensus. Well, not in my experience. I don't remember an awful lot of consensus in the Assembly in the 9 years that I was there. The principle of consent is the basis, actually, for the Good Friday Agreement. It's a very different thing. And I am saying, as an Irish nationalist who think all of those economic and social outcomes will be better in a new Ireland, and I think we will get there sooner than some people think, and thank you, I think, to some of the people to my left. But as an Irish nationalist who wants to bring about constitutional change, the principle of consent is sacrosanct. It is not going anywhere. It is not changing. So this pretense that we have been taken out of the United Kingdom and nobody noticed, that's the basis of the boycott of the executive. Well, I must have missed the victory party if we're now all in the United Ireland. I didn't notice.
Now you're being childish.
No, I'm not being childish.
Silly.
Your argument is that this is a constitutional rupture, that the Northern Ireland, the people of Northern Ireland have been taken out of the United Kingdom. It has been said twice by members of the DUP in this debate. It is simply not true. If that's what they want to tell people, it's a very strange way of being a unionist. My view is the Assembly is there to deal with all the problems that we have in the health system, the education system. I want to see United Ireland. It will work to make that happen, but I have to convince enough people. We have to have a referendum. That's when the principle of consent comes into play. So do not conflate the two things. There's a decision being made by the DUP. It's a political decision, and there are consequences for it. And my view, Madam Deputy Speaker, is they have to own those consequences.